Good morning, everyone. We're going to make a start on our workshop 5 in the series. This workshop is for 90 minutes, so we'll be finishing at 1 p.m. And there is an opportunity at the end of the call to stay on and connect with others. So we'll be open until 1:30 for 30 minutes. So just need to remind everyone that only parts of the workshop are recorded. And workshops 1 to 4 recordings are available on the website, and today's session will be available on the website by our next session. We'll also be using Slido. So for some of you, this may be new. It's fairly easy to use, but you would need to get a smartphone. So if you can get that ready, if you can use Slido. Those without a smartphone, don't worry, you can post your comments and responses in the chat as we go through today's session. So if possible, it'd be great if you can have your videos on. It's great to see so many people, particularly when we're all still, a lot of us working from home. It's particularly helpful when we get into the breakout groups. It will help improve the quality of the conversations that we'll have together in those sessions. In general, if you can keep your microphones on mute and unmute, obviously, when you want to join in with comments or feedback or in the breakout sessions. We'll be using the Slido, as I mentioned, but also the Zoom chat box throughout. And there might be a few messages coming through, so don't worry if you can't keep up. After each of these sessions, we produce a brief after workshop report, and that will include some of the information from the chat, as well as a synthesis from what was discussed today. And that report will be available on our website by the next workshop. It would be great if you could share your experiences throughout and after the workshop on Twitter, and hashtags are on the screen now. So this is the narrative arc that runs across the series of our workshops. We'll primarily be exploring what this means for individuals' personal skills development, although we do want to also pay attention to what does this mean in terms of your teams, your organisations, and the wider improvement community. Now, the need to work collaboratively is more relevant than ever, and the skills to do this are more critical than they have ever been. We sense there appears to be a real appetite for newfound collaborations to continue as teams look to the future. So one tool that might be of use to support everyone in making this a reality is the Skills for Collaborative Change framework. It was developed by Q and Nesta and looks at the skills and attitudes needed for collaborative change. It comprises of 3 overall skills of learn by doing, initiate change, and bringing people together. So from this framework, we have shaped a series of 6 workshops, and it's good to see people who've been on previous workshops with us today. This series has been shaped by your needs, and what you shared in workshop 1 was of main interest to you. So your poll results from the series will follow those themes within the Skills for Collaborative Change framework. Now, each session is designed as a standalone session, so there is that ability to dip in and out. However, we'd always encourage as many of you to come to as many as possible. Today, we're focusing on the skill of articulating the benefit, to translate insights into persuasive examples and sell a vision for what a project can achieve. Looking at demonstrating value and making the case for change by articulating those benefits is a skill theme that permeates this workshop, and we will ask you to bear this skill in mind as you listen, share, and reflect throughout the workshop today. So to support our exploration of the skill of articulating benefits, the team with us today is as facilitators. There's Des, Mandy, and myself. For logistics, Sue and Emma, and case example contributors, Natalie and Kimberly. Thank you for joining us today. So here are some of the principles of how we will learn together, both during this session, but also through the series. These are interactive sessions, and we've designed activities to support you to have useful conversations by learning together through collaborative and peer learning. We want this to be a safe and supportive space for people to share openly with each other, recognizing that this can be a very difficult time for many of us. Each session in the series is shaped by the feedback that we receive from you. So please do add your comments and reflections and votes in surveys as we run throughout the session. We aim to give you the time and the space to process your thoughts, both in the breakout rooms, but also some time at the end for individual reflection and consideration of the learnings and action that you may wish to take forward. So we're going to start with a quick survey and take a minute to reflect now as we ask ourselves a question. You can use Slido or you can pop your answers in the chat. So if you're using Slido, there's that QR code on the screen there. And so using a scale of 1 to 4, with 4 being very confident, how confident are you that you can sell an idea by explaining both its value and the evidence that supports it? So I'll just give you a moment to get those results in. Oh, that's quite a split there. Getting any more? Oh. That's excellent. So we can see quite a shift as it started, and no one is extremely confident. Everyone's sitting somewhere around the middle, but oh, we're getting a bit more movement on that. That's really helpful. So consider that as we move through the session today, and look for those conversations in the breakout sessions, but all the learning from the case contributors and how we can support and move those skill and that confidence further up. So using a model from Nesta, we will approach learning together as shown on this slide. And the workshop design aims to thread these 4 principles through every aspect of the workshop series and beyond. I'm going to hand over to Des now, because I think I've covered off one of his slides, unfortunately. So apologies, Des.
That's all right. That's very fortunate. Not a problem. Thanks, Dom.
I'm getting carried away.
And good morning to everyone. Thanks for joining us. So the model from Nesta, 4 quadrants, 4 areas that we're going to cover today with you. So learning with and from peers. So you'll have an opportunity to hear from colleagues who have hands-on experience in doing improvement as they share their case examples of improvement work, and some of which has worked. Next, we'll be looking at learning by doing. So we've created opportunities for sharing experiences and discussions with others in breakout rooms, as well as time and space for self-reflection, learning on doing through reflection. Next, we're going to cover off learning for action. So we'll be inspired by each other to do things in new ways. We will create impact by formulating actionable goals. So how we're going to act after the workshop or the workshop series. And also by deciding on actions, small or big, of doing things differently to generate better outcomes using a skills continuum, which you would have received as you registered. And finally, we're going to cover off learning beyond the workshop. As we all know, that a learning experience is more than just a face-to-face workshop or a virtual workshop. So QLab Cymru is looking to provide some ways we can support you when using your new skills in your daily practice, and you'll hear about how to join the Q Cymru network with an opportunity for networking directly after the workshop. So we're just going to ask another survey question of you. All right, so if we just take a minute to reflect, and again, you can use Slido or put your answer into chat. What barriers do you face when demonstrating value? So our starter for 10 is measurement, pun intended there. Thank you. Time to prepare. Okay. Using same language, lack of confidence, which maybe reflects the question in the previous survey. So already embedded processes and cultures. Shared understanding of benefits, which could be in the future. That's interesting. So time has come up a couple of times. So time to collect resources. Okay. Right, thank you for that. Confidence has come up again. There's an interesting response there. Value to whom? So I'm anticipating that is around different perspectives on what value could be and who should be the beneficiaries of that value. Thank you for sharing that. And benefits to all, again, looking at those different perspectives. Thank you. So learning from peers. So one of the things we're going to do now, looking at that first part of the model, is spend some time to learn with and from peers. So I'd like to introduce Natalie and Kimberly, who are going to share some key learning from their themes and emerging from their themes of work and articulate the benefit which was integral to their approach in their work. So over to you, Natalie and Kimberly. Thank you.
Thank you so much for inviting us to come and share about a project that I've been leading. So I'm Natalie, and I'm presenting today with one of our key project members, Kimberly. So if I just invite you in, Kimberly, just to introduce yourself, if that's okay.
Hello there, everybody. Yeah, I'm Kimberly. I'm a former BBC producer, now making health content and working with Natalie to help support her project.
Thank you. And my background is I'm in a fairly new role. It's about 18 months old now, but as a national role as the Allied Health Professional Lead for Dementia across Wales. So this is very much about a national project that we've been working on since early on in the pandemic. We're going to talk to you a little bit today about the project and also to share with you some of our learnings around how we've worked to articulate the benefits and sort of bring people on board. And Kimberly is going to be sharing her perspective as somebody who's come on and done work with us on the project about how we did that and her experience. Also on here is the word colleagues, because just to make really clear that there's a lot of people involved in this project, and we wouldn't have been able to get as far and make as much progress as we had without all of those contributions, and that the project was part of the Bevan Commission exemplar programme. The next slide, please. So we're going to start off, I think Sue's going to helpfully load a little video clip for us to watch, which just gives a really helpful background to the project. And this video clip was created by a student on placement with us, Jenny Evans, who's training to be an occupational therapist.
Get There Together is a national project aimed at people living with dementia and their families. To help them to adjust to changes in the community due to COVID restrictions. Many people living with dementia have needed to isolate or shield. Them and their families have been worried about going back into the community now the restrictions are starting to lift. People affected by dementia have felt that they've experienced a deterioration in their condition, as well as increased memory loss, problems concentrating, and increased difficulty with reading and writing. Many felt that they had lost some of their abilities to complete daily tasks such as washing and dressing. Digital stories are around 2 minutes long, and using pictures, videos, voiceovers and text can help to relay important information. They can be used to highlight changes due to COVID restrictions, such as maintaining social distance, by showing examples of signs people could expect. One-way systems, they are available for specific community locations, such as shops, cafes or restaurants, healthcare services, and community groups. As the videos are aimed at people living with dementia, it's important that they are accessible to all, so they will also be available in leaflet format and English and Welsh versions too. The project hopes that by using the videos, it will help lessen anxiety, reduce isolation, and encourage inclusion for those individuals living with dementia. The digital stories will be available on the Dewis Cymru website for individuals and their families to access.
That's great. Thank you, Sue, for sharing that. And we'll just move back to the presentation screen, please, if that's okay. Hopefully that gave a nice sort of overview of our project in brief. And we'll talk a little bit about the process as well next. So if we could move on to the next slide, please, Sue. Thank you. So one of the things that we did as a project was starting out was to identify people who were really interested in working with us on this, and we developed sort of at the centre a national group of people who were keen to work with us and sort of understood the concept and need that was there. And we've grown over time, attracting new partners, and what's happened is as we were listening to what people needed from us, so people living with dementia in the communities, we quickly realised that people wanted very sort of local content. So it was going to be important for us to have some regional partners that could look at creating these digital stories about services and locations in those communities that were relevant to those areas, and that those regional groups could speak to their communities and understand what the specific needs were, which may differ and have differed a little bit across Wales. So what we've got now are our national group who meet regularly to provide support, and in that national group there's somebody who's taken more of a lead for each of the regions that have then developed their own subgroups. And some of those that are in blue have been with us since really early on at the beginning of the project. And those are in the oranger colours are newer groups that are joining us, and we're still still continuing to grow and have new people join the project. Also just want to take the opportunity to thank Digital Communities Wales, because they've been extremely supportive with the project. And early on we had conversations with them and were able to articulate the benefit to them, which meant that they've been offering us with all of our members free training on how to create a digital story using a free to download app. And that has really, really helped the success of what we've been able to do as a group. And next slide, please. And this is just a quick example of one of our subgroups in the Gwent region, and this diagram was put together a while ago. I know it's continued to grow this subgroup, but just to share all the different partners that have come on board, and this has taken time. So it wasn't overnight that we suddenly had everybody keen and involved, but we've had to do a lot of work both from the national perspective and also sort of our leads regionally to recruit partners. And we've come back to the national group to share how we've been doing that. So we've learned from each other. We've been able to see, well, actually maybe Gwent's got on board, I don't know, the police. So perhaps one of the other regions that was a sort of way in for us to look at, perhaps that would be another partner in that region that we hadn't thought about. Next slide, please. So I'm going to bring Kimberly in here at this point just to share her experience of getting involved in the project and how we introduced the concept to her and what motivated her to join us. Oh, Kimberly, you're on mute at the moment.
Right, can you hear me now? Sorry, I thought I pressed the right button. I'm on a mobile phone. Well, the reason why I'm on my mobile phone in a car is because I've just been having a meeting with Red Sea House in Butetown, Cardiff, about one of the films that I'm about to make for this project. And so I haven't really done Zoom on my phone before, so it's been a new and exciting experience for me. But basically, Natalie's had a very clear vision. And I think in any group where you're trying to bring others along, one of the most important things for me is that the person who's leading it needs to have a clear vision of what they want to do and what they want to achieve and are endlessly enthusiastic. And then that is the bit that then carries others along with the leader of the group. And I think that's what Natalie's done terribly well, which is probably slightly embarrassing for her to hear now in front of everybody else. But that's a really key point if you're trying to encourage people to join you on a mission. So I was caught up in Natalie's interest, plus it's a personal thing for me because both of my parents are living with advanced Alzheimer's disease. So that captured my interest and that has continued to feed into why I'm interested in this project. And also, a lot of the work that's been done with this project is to show people how to access the clinic or how to access the Specsavers and this, that and the other. But because of my personal experience, I always think it's really important as well to remember that life isn't just about medical appointments, but it's also about getting outside, going for a walk, and also including perhaps parts of communities that wouldn't otherwise be automatically included. So when I met, I've been doing some work with the Somali community in Cardiff, and I just thought, wow, there must be a way that we can do something with the Somali community here as an example of getting out. So we're going to do a short film on reminiscence sort of activities. So I'm taking a group of Somali elders down to the docks in Cardiff where there's now a load of restaurants so that they can talk about what it was like working there back in the day. And I've just met the families now and they're all really interested and excited about this as an idea. So that takes me to that sort of point. It's inspiring, but it's also about making connections. So you make connections within communities, which will enrich other projects. Through Natalie, I've met other people in the project team. That's made connections and made me think of ideas and other avenues for doing things that perhaps I wouldn't have thought of, but just a bit like getting involved in this Q Lab project. And basically, as you draw people in to whatever project it is that you're leading, so you're effectively growing the model as people are getting involved, bringing their expertise, making connections, growing the thing. So at the top of every project is an inspiring leader with a clear ambition and a clear message. And then I think everybody wins. So I believe the next slide is the short film that I made with my mum. I shot it on my mobile phone. And again, this was part of me trying to bring in the idea that let's not make illness or long-term conditions all about appointments, but also about doing nice things as well.
Thanks so much, Kimberly. I think Sue's just bringing that clip up now.
Thank you.
Why would you like to go out?
I'll see what's going on.
Shall we?
Yes.
Excellent. How are your feet, Mum?
Fine.
How about a scarf? We've got shoes, glove, coat and hat. Are you ready to go out now, Mum? Seatbelt on. Right, let's go and see the sea and have some fresh air. We're just going to be half an hour, aren't we? What's the time? 12:30. Are we ready to go out and look at the sea?
Right, yes.
So you see friends, don't you, Mum, when you come out?
Hooray.
What can you see?
Birds on the low rocks there.
5 minutes outside in the fresh air was nice, wasn't it? Right, should we go home then?
So as we head back to the presentation, I just want to say, you know, I really enjoy always seeing that clip that Kimberly made, and that's just one wonderful example of many clips that we've now produced as part of this project, which is all about supporting people living with dementia. But we quickly realised that the resources that we've made in this project aren't just going to help people living with dementia, but they will, you know, be supportive for many people for different reasons. And at its peak, we had 78 videos covering different types of services or locations that were loaded onto the Dewis Cymru site. We have taken a few down recently because what we keep doing periodically is making sure we're checking the content is up to date. And of course, some of the changes with COVID restrictions mean that we need to be doing that and making sure that the content is relevant. Just to share some of the achievements from the project, we've used both surveys and focus groups to be obtaining feedback throughout as part of an improvement cycle to make sure that we're listening to people in our communities that we're trying to support and making sure that we are providing resources that are useful, and we've been able to adapt from that feedback. And I think that's really important as part of the case for articulating the benefit, is that you can sort of show that the work that you're doing, you're gathering that evidence and evaluating the project as you go. As I explained at the start, we continue to grow interest. If anyone here today would like to get involved, you've got an idea about a service or a location it'd be good to have a clip for, or you'd like to just know a bit more about the project and how you can share the resources, then we'd love to hear from you. We officially launched the project with a communications campaign in early May, and then we did another big push with comms support in September around World Alzheimer's Month. We've been really fortunate. We were featured across BBC Wales platforms as a project. We've been able to share our work at international conferences and other conferences and groups across Wales. And we've also had publications about the work in the Journal of Dementia Care, and we've got one that's just come out, which is about the experience of a large group of occupational therapy students who supported us with the work and their experience of being on placement with the project. So next slide, please. So other things that we're working on as well is we're continuing to grow the project. We've been working with an industry partner through the Accelerate programme, developing some videos using 360 filming, and we're due to be evaluating how those are received by people living with dementia compared to sort of standard videos, so that we can see, does that add benefit? Is it more advantageous to be able to move around and look about an area with a 360 film? And if you're not familiar with what I mean by those, a good example is your sort of street view on Google Maps, where you can kind of go in and you can move up and down the street. It would allow someone to kind of go into a venue and move around in the video clip. But our question, of course, is that more complicated, and does that make it more difficult for someone living with dementia to sort of process and use? So before we advance that further, that we'll be doing a period of evaluation. We've also had Google Analytics from Dewis Cymru, and we know that we've had well over 1 million views of our resources, which is just amazing. And really shows that need is there. And I think it's been really helpful for us as the project has been progressing to be able to share those statistics to continue to sort of articulate the benefit of what we're doing. We're also working with the Centre for Ageing and Dementia Research, who've been part of the national project group from quite early on, and they're very generously doing a mini pilot evaluation, speaking to some of our project members to find out about what's inspired them to be involved in the project and where they'd like, these relationships that we've built to go next. and also to people with who've accessed our resources to understand what impact they've had, and how it's helping them. And so, as Kimberly said at the start, we're sort of broadening some of the scope of the project. We're really keen to make more resources that support people from different communities, like the Somali elders that Kimberly spoke about. But also we've heard some very sad stories about the experiences of people living in care homes at the moment, and how fearful they are about, in some cases, unfortunately, even leaving their room into other parts of the care home, and in other instances going out from the care home. So we're looking at creating some videos now with Age Cymru, specifically aimed at care home residents. And we're lucky we've had some funding from Welsh Government. We've been able to articulate the benefit to them, and they've been really supportive of the project, and they've given us some funding, which is going to allow us to develop an app where, as well as being on Dewis site, we'll be able to host all our video resources and content on there, and it will allow the user to do more with it. So they will be able to save which clips are most relevant to them, and create a sort of activity plan for going out of the house. Next slide, please. So just quickly, so what we have kind of had to think about is who and why are the people that we needed to articulate the benefit to about the project. And these are some of the people that have been key for us. So our regional partners, our host organisation where we've sort of hosted the resources. So we had quite a lot of conversations with Age Cymru, and we're now actually one of their most popular resources on their site. So there's been benefits back to them. As I described, we've been meeting with our sort of target end users and doing work in terms of how they access the resources and know that they exist. And then our evaluation partners. So we've worked, as I described, with different partners that are going to help us with some evaluation work. And then, of course, funders. So how we've managed to get investment to support us to grow. Next slide, please. So just really quickly, this is a clip that generously one of our other project members shared. This is from one of our project leads in the Gwent region, who said that she got involved in the project as it fits with the dementia-friendly community work that she supports across Gwent. She felt that we'd highlighted the negative impact that lockdown had had on people living with dementia and their families and carers, and how people have reported an increase in anxiety and loneliness due to social isolation and the loss of key skills. This has been reported in her role, and she's also seen it from a personal perspective. And she really wanted to be part of an innovative project that was providing a practical way of helping people. So I'm going to stop there because I'm aware of time in terms of reading out that quote, but that's really, from her perspective as to what encouraged her to join the project. So some of the top tips in terms of things that I would share that we've learned is really important at the start was to be listening. So this project was totally inspired by the voices of people living with dementia and their families about what their needs were and what was happening for them during the pandemic. And that was our evidence. And that helped us to develop a really clear vision that we could share that sort of meaningful story as Kimberly talked about. It's been really important for me to be working on how we develop relationships with people and how that's continued to grow over time, so that we've brought on different partners. I would share that having support from a communications team perspective has been really valuable for our project, in how they've supported us to get that information out there and help launch the resources that we've produced. And I would say, when talking with partners, some more than others, you need to think about what's in it for them. So as well as when you're asking for help, what is it that you are doing that can support them, and what can those people maybe look to get from being involved in your project? We very much worked over an approach of shared ownership. So with partners, it's been really important that it feels inclusive and that this is very much our project, not my project. and following a collaborative approach so that people get benefits from being involved and feel that, as I said, sense of ownership. As I described earlier, we've been gathering evidence as we go and evaluating and putting that back into the project to be improving and explaining the value of the work we've done. It has been really important that we've needed to invest time in this to make it successful, and that's a continuous part of the project, to be able to be flexible around what people can contribute or what things are needed at that time in the project, and to really be focused on how you manage and maintain momentum for those partners who have got on board. And then I think we've got one more slide, which is just to share at the end, if you are interested in the work we've done, here are some links that you can follow to look at our resources and share them. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you, Natalie. And thank you,